Alex had always been the kind of person who prided himself on his work ethic. After a long day of meetings, emails, and deadlines, he loved to come home to the peace and quiet of his modern apartment. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom unit in the heart of the city, but it was his space, a space where he could unwind and let the stress of the world fade away. Recently, Alex had hired Lily as his maid. She was quiet and efficient, always showing up on time and taking care of the household chores without complaint. He never thought much about her. After all, she was just his maid. They exchanged pleasantries when they saw each other, but they mostly kept to their roles. He was the busy professional, and she was the person who cleaned his apartment. One particular evening, Alex had decided to go to bed early. It had been a long, exhausting day, and he was desperate for some rest. He changed into his pajamas, a simple pair of loose pants, and a t-shirt, and slipped into bed. The apartment was quiet, the only sound coming from the soft hum of the city outside. Meanwhile, Lily had arrived to do her usual cleaning. She wasn't expecting to find him in his room so early, especially not already in bed. She had knocked on his door as usual, but hearing no response, she assumed he was in the living room or just out of the house. Without thinking much of it, she stepped into his bedroom, her arms full of cleaning supplies. When she entered, the last thing she expected was to find Alex already lying in bed, looking up at the ceiling with his eyes closed. For a moment, neither of them moved. The air between them was thick with surprise and confusion. Lily stood there, frozen in shock, staring at Alex, his shirt half-draped across his body, the covers pulled only halfway up. She had only ever seen him in his formal clothes before, and now, in his relaxed state, she saw him in a completely different light. Her face flushed a deep shade of red. Alex opened his eyes, startled by her sudden appearance. His mind raced, but before he could react, he found himself staring at her as well. Lily quickly turned away, her cheeks burning from embarrassment. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Lily stammered, her voice shaky. "I didn't mean to intrude. I thought you were out." Alex quickly sat up in bed, scrambling for words. No, it's my fault. I didn't expect you to come in so early," he said, his voice flustered. He rubbed his hand over his face, trying to hide his own embarrassment. "It's fine, really." But neither of them could shake off the awkwardness of the moment. The silence between them stretched for what seemed like an eternity. Lily stood by the door, unsure whether she should leave or stay. Alex, still sitting on the edge of the bed, felt his heart race. He had never been put in such an uncomfortable situation, and he couldn't figure out how to ease the tension. "I'll leave you to it," Lily said quickly, trying to retreat. She opened the door, but before she stepped out, she glanced back at him one last time. "Again, I'm sorry," she said, her voice quiet. Alex just nodded, unable to think of anything else to say. As the door closed behind her, he sat in silence, unsure of what had just happened. The situation had caught him off guard, and he knew things would never feel the same between them again. The next morning, the tension between Alex and Lily was palpable. Since their awkward encounter the night before, neither of them had spoken much. Lily showed up as usual to clean, but her movements were stiff, and she avoided making eye contact with Alex. She wasn't sure what to say, how to act, or if everything between them had changed after what had happened. Alex, on the other hand, couldn't get the image of her standing in the doorway out of his head. He felt embarrassed for being caught off guard, and now he couldn't shake the feeling that things between them were different. It was a Saturday morning, and Alex was working from home, sitting at his desk in the living room. He could hear Lily quietly moving around the apartment, dusting, sweeping, and cleaning. He tried to focus on his emails, but every few minutes, his mind wandered back to the previous night. He glanced over at the kitchen, where Lily was organizing the counters. She seemed focused, avoiding his gaze entirely. Her back was to him, and she didn't say a word. Alex sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. He had to break the silence. It was getting unbearable. "Lily, about last night." Alex started, trying to sound casual, but his voice came out a bit too hesitant. He cleared his throat. "I didn't mean for that to happen. I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable." Lily froze for a moment, her shoulders stiffening. She turned slightly to look at him, but didn't fully face him. Her face was flushed again. "No, it's okay," she replied quickly, forcing a small smile. "I just didn't expect you to be in bed already." Alex could sense the awkwardness in her voice. It made him uncomfortable too, but he wasn't sure how to ease it. He didn't want to make her feel more uneasy, so he decided to change the subject. "Do you want me to leave the room while you clean?" Alex asked. He wasn't sure what the right thing to do was. It felt wrong to be sitting there while she worked, but leaving the room might make things even more awkward. Lily shook her head without turning fully around. "No, it's fine. I'll finish quickly." Her voice was quiet, almost as if she were trying to avoid drawing attention to herself. Alex sighed and stood up, walking over to the kitchen counter where she was working. He stood there for a moment, feeling the air between them crackle with the unspoken tension. He wasn't sure how to handle this new dynamic between them, but he knew he needed to address it before it got worse. "Look, I know this is weird," he began, his voice softer now, "but I'd like us to be comfortable around each other. I respect the boundaries of our work relationship, but I also don't want things to feel awkward all the time." Lily finally turned to face him, a surprised look on her face. She studied him for a moment, her eyes wide. "You really don't mind?" she asked, a hint of disbelief in her voice. "Of course I don't mind," Alex replied. "It was just an accident. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable in your own workplace." He offered a small, genuine smile. "We're both adults, and I think we can figure this out." Lily's expression softened. She glanced down at the floor for a second before meeting his gaze again. "I just wasn't sure how to act after that. I felt like I crossed a line." "You didn't," Alex said quickly, reassuring her. "It's all good. We'll just move past it." There was a brief pause, and then Lily smiled, the tension easing just a little. "Thanks. I guess I just overthought it." Alex chuckled lightly, feeling some of the weight lift from his shoulders. "I think we both did." For the first time since the incident, they both relaxed a little. The awkwardness didn't disappear completely, but it was starting to fade. They weren't quite back to normal, but at least they were trying to make things work. As Lily finished cleaning, Alex felt a strange sense of relief. Maybe things would return to normal after all. But deep down, a small part of him wondered if there was more to this newfound connection between them, if their relationship could ever be something beyond employer and employee. The following days felt like they moved in slow motion for both Alex and Lily. They continued with their usual routines, but there was a subtle shift in their interactions. The awkwardness from the night of the accidental encounter hadn't completely disappeared, but both of them had made an effort to move past it. They spoke to each other more comfortably, though there was still that invisible wall between them, a barrier they both quietly acknowledged, but neither of them addressed. Alex continued to work from home, and Lily came in every morning to clean. As the days passed, Alex found himself noticing her more. He had always thought she was just his maid, but now he couldn't help but observe the way she moved around his apartment, the way she hummed softly to herself while she worked, the way she smiled when he made her laugh. He found himself looking forward to her arrival more than he cared to admit. But Lily, despite her efforts to act normal, was still unsure of how to navigate the space between them. She had never had this kind of relationship with an employer before. She had always kept things professional, keeping her distance and never crossing any boundaries. But now, after the strange encounter, she couldn't help but feel like something had changed between them. One morning, as she was cleaning the living room, Alex came out of his bedroom, his hair still messy from sleep. He hadn't expected to see her there just yet. He had lost track of time while working on his computer. "Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you," Alex said, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't realize you'd be here so early." Lily looked up, startled. She quickly straightened and offered a polite smile. "It's okay. I didn't want to disturb you." Alex stepped into the kitchen, reaching for a cup of coffee. He could tell that there was still a distance between them. The way Lily avoided his gaze made it clear she was still feeling the effects of the awkwardness between them. He could only imagine how difficult it must be for her. As he poured himself a cup, Alex hesitated, then decided to break the silence. "Lily, I know we're both trying to get back to normal, but I just wanted to check in with you." Lily paused in her cleaning, looking up at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, and if I'm doing something that makes things harder for you, just let me know." Alex's voice was sincere. He genuinely wanted to make sure they could find a comfortable way to work together. Lily shifted awkwardly, her eyes glancing down at the floor. "I've just been trying to keep things professional, like we always did. I don't want to make anything weird." "It's okay," Alex reassured her. "It's just, you don't have to avoid me, you know. We've both been feeling it, but it's important to me that you feel comfortable here." Lily looked at him then, her expression softening. "I know. I've just been trying to figure out how to act after what happened, but maybe I've been overthinking it." Alex gave her a gentle smile. "We both probably have. But I think we're doing okay. I just want to make sure you're not feeling pressured or uncomfortable in any way." Lily nodded, feeling a sense of relief. "I appreciate that. I think I just needed to hear it from you. We're both just adjusting, I guess." Alex agreed. "Exactly. Adjusting." They stood there for a moment, the air between them less heavy now, but still tinged with a quiet awareness. Lily resumed cleaning, and Alex went back to his work, but something had changed. They were trying again, working through the awkwardness, and moving toward a place where they could both feel comfortable. Neither of them knew exactly where it would lead, but they were both beginning to realize that maybe, just maybe, things between them could be different. The days that followed felt quieter, but there was a shift in the air. Alex and Lily had settled into a more comfortable routine, yet there was an unspoken understanding between them. The awkwardness that had once filled the space between them was slowly giving way to something else, something neither of them had expected. Alex found himself looking forward to the small moments they shared. He started to notice the little things about Lily. The way she hummed softly when she worked, the way she smiled when she caught him looking at her. It was a smile that made him feel like they were sharing a secret, a silent understanding that perhaps they were both growing more comfortable with each other. Lily, too, couldn't deny the change. She had stopped overthinking their interactions. The tension had started to fade, replaced with a quiet warmth. While she had tried to maintain professionalism, she couldn't ignore the growing sense that there was something more between them. It wasn't just about being her employer anymore. Alex had started to feel like someone she could talk to, someone she could confide in. She realized, though it was hard to admit, she enjoyed his company. One afternoon, as she was cleaning the kitchen, Alex walked in, rubbing his eyes. "I'm exhausted," he said with a half smile. "I need a break from work. Do you ever get tired of all the cleaning?" Lily laughed lightly, setting down the cloth she had been wiping the counter with. "Not really. It keeps me busy, and I enjoy it. But I can't say I blame you for being tired. Work is a lot." Alex leaned against the doorframe, looking at her. There was something about her calm demeanor that made him relax. "Yeah, I've been buried in emails all day. I think I'll take a short break. You want to join me for coffee?" he asked, offering a casual smile. Lily hesitated for just a moment. She had never really spent time with him outside of her cleaning duties, but the thought of sharing a coffee in a more personal, relaxed setting seemed like a good idea. After all, They had become comfortable with each other. And why not? She hadn't had many chances to just sit down and have a normal conversation with him. "I'd love to," she said, setting her cleaning supplies aside. They both made their way to the living room, where Alex poured them each a cup of coffee. They sat together on the couch, the quiet warmth of the room surrounding them. For the first time, it didn't feel like an employer-employee relationship. It felt like two people simply enjoying each other's company. As they sipped their coffee, the conversation flowed easily. They talked about work, the city, and small details of their lives that hadn't come up before. Alex was surprised by how much he was learning about Lily, and she, too, found herself sharing things she hadn't planned on. It was clear they were starting to connect on a deeper level. "So, do you have any big plans for the weekend?" Alex asked, looking over at her with curiosity. Lily smiled. "Nothing too exciting. I was thinking of going to a market on Saturday, maybe picking up a few things." Alex's eyes lit up. "I've heard about that market. I've never been, but I've always wanted to check it out. Maybe I'll join you." Lily raised an eyebrow, surprised by the suggestion. "Really? You'd want to do that? Why not?" "It sounds like fun," Alex said with a grin. "Plus, I could use a break from work." Lily smiled, a little unsure but pleased. "Well, if you want to come, I guess it could be interesting." As the afternoon wore on, the easy conversation between them continued, and for the first time, it didn't feel like they were just two people in different roles. They were connecting, and Alex realized that he was beginning to enjoy these moments far more than he had expected. And as Lily glanced over at him, she couldn't help but feel a growing sense of anticipation for the weekend. Things were changing between them, and though neither of them knew where it would lead, they were both starting to feel that maybe, just maybe, the connection they had was becoming something much more than simple professionalism. The weekend arrived quicker than either Alex or Lily had expected. Despite the new sense of comfort that had developed between them, neither one of them could shake off the nervous excitement of what their casual outing would mean. For Alex, it was a chance to spend time with Lily outside the usual work routine. For Lily, it was a chance to see her employer in a new light, no longer just a professional, but someone she was beginning to think of as more of a friend, maybe even something more. They met in the early afternoon at Alex's apartment, both dressed casually. Lily had picked a simple dress, and Alex, noticing how comfortable and relaxed she looked, couldn't help but smile. There was something about the way she carried herself today that felt different, freer. "You ready?" Alex asked, stepping out of the door with a smile that was warmer than Lily was used to. She nodded, adjusting the strap of her bag. "Ready," she said. "Let's go before we miss all the good stuff at the market." The two of them set out, walking side by side through the busy streets of the city. The market was only a short walk away, but the buzz of activity around them made the walk feel like an adventure. There were street vendors, families strolling, and a general hum of excitement in the air. Lily felt a strange sense of ease as she walked beside Alex, their conversation flowing without effort. They weren't just talking about work or cleaning anymore. They were discussing their likes, dislikes, and small details that made them who they were. When they arrived at the market, Lily led the way, showing Alex the different stalls she enjoyed visiting. There were fresh vegetables, homemade candles, unique clothes, and trinkets from all over. Alex marveled at the variety of things the market offered and couldn't help but admire how much Lily seemed to know about every little booth. "I've never seen this place before. I don't know how you've kept it a secret from me all this time," Alex joked, smiling as he looked at the items on display. Lily laughed. "I guess I've just never thought to invite you before, but I'm glad you're here now. It's fun to share this with someone." They moved through the market together, sampling food, trying on hats, and making each other laugh. For Alex, it was a simple pleasure, spending time with Lily, enjoying the little moments that made life feel less rushed. For Lily, it was a sense of connection she hadn't anticipated. She had always kept things professional with Alex, But today, it felt different. She was no longer his maid. She was simply Lily, enjoying a day out with a friend. After a while, they found a quiet spot on a park bench overlooking the market. Alex had bought a small hand-carved wooden figurine as a souvenir, and Lily had picked up some fresh fruit for her kitchen. They sat there, enjoying the peaceful moment, neither one of them wanting the day to end. "This has been nice," Lily said, breaking the comfortable silence. "I don't remember the last time I just took a day off to do something fun." Alex smiled, feeling the warmth spread through him. "I'm glad we did this. It's good to take a break every once in a while." Lily turned to face him, her eyes meeting his in a way that felt more intimate than usual. "I'm glad you came with me," she said softly. "It means more than you know." Alex's heart skipped a beat, and he found himself looking at her in a new way. The attraction that had been simmering beneath the surface was undeniable now. He wasn't sure if it was the right time to say anything, but something about the way Lily looked at him made him feel like the moment had come. "I'm glad too," he said, his voice a little quieter than usual. For a long moment, they just looked at each other, both of them silently acknowledging the change in their relationship. What had once been a simple employer-employee dynamic was slowly shifting into something deeper, something more meaningful. Neither of them knew what would happen next, but for the first time, neither of them was afraid to find out. The following week, the mood between Alex and Lily had changed. It wasn't just the market outing that had shifted things. It was the way they were beginning to see each other in a new light. Every interaction felt a little different now, a bit more personal, a little warmer. There were still moments of awkwardness, but the walls that once separated them were starting to break down. Alex had started noticing how easy it was to talk to Lily now. She wasn't just his mate anymore. She was someone he could talk to, someone who seemed to understand him in ways he hadn't expected. He found himself looking forward to her visits each day, not just because of the work she did, but because of her presence. She made his apartment feel less like a place to sleep and more like a home. But Lily, too, was struggling with the change. She had always kept her emotions in check, but now she couldn't help but feel something stirring inside her every time Alex smiled at her or made a casual joke. She tried to ignore it, but she couldn't deny the way her heart seemed to skip whenever he looked at her with that soft expression. She had always respected him, but now she wondered if maybe there was more to it, something deeper that neither of them was ready to talk about. One afternoon, Alex had just finished his work for the day and was sitting on the couch, reading a book. Lily had finished cleaning and was about to leave when Alex spoke up. "Hey, I was thinking," he said, glancing up from his book. "Maybe we could grab dinner after work one of these days. I know a great place nearby." Lily paused, her heart skipping a beat at the sudden invitation. She had always seen their interactions as casual, professional. But this was different. This was outside of work, and the idea of spending time with him in a more personal setting felt strange, but exciting. "That sounds nice," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'd like that." Alex smiled, relieved that she hadn't rejected the idea. "Great. How about Friday? I'll pick you up after your shift." Lily nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. She hadn't been out on a proper date in ages, and the thought of spending the evening with Alex felt like a big step. But it was also something she was looking forward to. Maybe it was time to let go of the professional boundaries they'd been keeping up and see where this connection could lead. That evening, Alex couldn't help but think about the dinner plans. He had no idea where this would go, but he couldn't ignore the way he felt about Lily. She had become more than just his maid. She had become someone who made him laugh, someone who shared small moments with him that he couldn't share with anyone else. He didn't want to complicate things, but he had to admit to himself that he wanted more than just a casual friendship. Friday arrived quicker than either of them expected. Alex showed up at Lily's apartment, dressed in casual but sharp clothes. He knocked on the door, and when she answered, she was dressed in a simple but beautiful outfit. Alex felt a little nervous, but when Lily smiled at him, All his anxiety melted away. "You look great," he said, his voice softer than usual. Lily smiled, feeling the same flutter in her chest. "Thanks. You look good too." As they walked out the door together, there was a feeling of anticipation in the air. Neither of them knew exactly what would happen next, but both of them were ready to find out. The evening was cooler than expected, with a light breeze ruffling the leaves as Alex and Lily walked side by side toward the restaurant. It was a small, cozy place on a quiet street, a contrast to the busy life Alex was used to, but exactly what he thought Lily would enjoy. The atmosphere was relaxed, and the dim lighting inside felt welcoming. As they entered, the host greeted them with a smile and showed them to a table near the window. Alex pulled out a chair for Lily before sitting down across from her. He felt nervous but tried not to show it. There was something special about this evening, something different from a usual dinner with friends or coworkers. They were no longer just employer and employee. Tonight, they were two people trying to figure out what this new dynamic between them meant. As they settled into the evening, the conversation began to flow easily. At first, they talked about the food, the weather, and the things they had been doing during the week. But soon, the conversation turned deeper. They began to share more personal stories. Alex learned that Lily had always dreamed of traveling the world, visiting far-off places she'd read about. She talked about her childhood and how she'd worked hard to get to where she was now, and Alex couldn't help but admire her strength and ambition. "I always thought I'd be somewhere else by now," Lily said quietly, looking out the window. "Maybe not in a city like this, but you know, life doesn't always go as planned." Alex nodded, his gaze softening. He understood that feeling all too well. He'd spent years pushing himself to succeed, sometimes at the cost of his personal life. But talking to Lily, hearing about her journey, made him think about his own. Maybe there was more to life than just career goals and deadlines. "You've done a lot," Alex said, his voice sincere. "You've worked hard to get where you are. I think that's pretty amazing." Lily smiled, feeling a warm sense of connection growing between them. "Thanks, Alex. That means a lot." For a moment, there was a quiet lull as they both took a sip of their drinks. Then Alex cleared his throat, his expression a little more serious. "You know, I never really thought about how important it is to have someone who understands your ambitions," he said, meeting her gaze. "I've been so focused on my work, I forgot what it's like to just connect with someone, without it being about expectations or pressure." Lily's heart fluttered in her chest. She had always seen Alex as just her boss. But tonight, in this quiet restaurant with the gentle hum of conversation around them, she began to see him differently. He wasn't just a successful businessman. He was a person with his own struggles, his own desires. "I think we're both learning," Lily said softly. "It's easy to get lost in what you think you need to do. But maybe it's just as important to take time for yourself, to enjoy the moment." Alex smiled, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. There was something calming about being with Lily, about having a real conversation, without the walls they'd both put up before. As they finished their meal, the conversation naturally drifted to lighter topics. They talked about their favorite movies, the things they liked to do when they had free time, and even joked about the quirks of their lives. For the first time in a long while, Alex felt at ease. When the bill came, Alex insisted on paying. Lily protested, but he waved her off with a grin. "It's my treat. Consider it a thank you for making this night so enjoyable." Lily smiled, touched by his gesture. "Well, if you insist." As they left the restaurant, the night air felt fresh and new, and the city lights seemed a little brighter. They walked together in comfortable silence, no longer awkward or unsure. The evening had opened a door between them, a door to something deeper, something that neither of them had expected, but were both willing to explore. As they arrived at Lily's apartment, Alex hesitated for a moment before saying, "I'm really glad we did this." "Me too," Lily replied, her smile warm. "Thanks for tonight, Alex. I think it was exactly what we both needed." With a final, shared smile, Lily turned to go inside, and Alex watched her disappear into her apartment. He stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of the evening settle in. He wasn't sure what the future held, but he knew one thing. This was just the beginning of something new.